Okay, what's up? I'm going to be doing a VOD review for Henndogjezus, I believe that's how you say it. Playing Sigma, I believe the entire game on Eichenwald. So you mentioned here that you are having some good stats, whatever, but you're hoping to up your win percentage a bit. Um, so stats without context are kind of meaningless. When people say stats don't matter, they're telling half truths, kind of, right? Just for example, right? Like if I went in this game, um, I could probably pad my stats to literally have double your stats or something like that, right? You know, damage and but at this damage and mitigation stuff like that. But at the same time, since I'm a better player, the game would be over much sooner. So it might actually not be that too far off from what your stats look like at the end of the game, right? Um, so like I said, without context, they're meaningless. And like the difference is I would be having better fundamentals in the game and picking better fights and better timings, so I could just end the game sooner. Um, or I could just if like the game for whatever reason isn't ending sooner, which isn't going to be the case for me in bronze at least, right? Um, I'm still going to be like just even in more control of the game if for whatever reason like I'm down a player or something, and it makes it that much harder, right? Um, so like the point of this is like I wouldn't worry too much about stats. In fact, I saw something interesting. I don't know if this is still true. In regards to Hog, I'm pretty sure that Hog's like the average hook accuracy across all ranks is right around 50%, and it barely changes with rank. The difference is in bronze, everyone's aim's bad, but everyone's movement's bad, and everyone over peaks cover all the time, so it gravitates towards 50%. And when you get to like GM, everyone's cover usage is a lot better, um, right? And everyone's movement's a lot better, so they're harder to hit. But hog players also get better aim, right? And they have better like predictive power, right? Especially like in GM now, like no one really like swaps hog. If you play hog at high rank now, you're probably just a one trick on the character. I'll bring that up because that's what I'm most familiar with it, right? So there's probably going to be some bit of that on all characters, right? Like your stats might look actually surprisingly similar to a gold player playing in the gold game, right? It might not be like totally out of the ordinary, right? If you really want an accurate comparison, you should be looking compare your stats kind of like at the average Sigma stats and the average game length, right? So like damage per 10 or something like that per bronze, and even that's not like the greatest way to gauge your performance, right? Like you said, win rate's the best. Just a quick overview on stats, right? So I just wouldn't put too much focus into stats. Before I actually get into like the gameplay here, you mentioned on another reply here, um, it says you feel like you're unable to leave your team to take off angles, um, because you think they'll instantly get run over. But actually on Sigma, you really need to be taking different angles from your team to force resources away from the enemy team, right? And I'll actually point this out in this gameplay, where like everyone on your team's is forced at the same angle. You struggle to make anything happen, but the moment you break out of a choke, like you just start winning the fight, right? When people are split up. Um, I guess the quick like thing to say about this is Sigma's a poke tank, and poke tanks like excel at forcing angles and like providing pressure consistently over range for their team, right? So like Sigma or Hog, or I guess in some instances Zarya, right? They can take these angles and put out like a consistent amount of pressure, depending on their cooldowns. And yeah, it just forced the enemy team to look at something else besides their team, and this is how like they take space, right? If these tanks just like sit in a line with their tanks, they're just gonna get run over because they're just not tanky enough, right? If they just get like brawl fight into, like if they just get like Rhine sped into with like a Reaper and like Bastion, for example, they're just gonna explode because they don't have enough HP and resources to like sustain themselves, right? So if you don't split from your team, it makes it very difficult for your team to do anything. Obviously, there's a bit of like um I guess pressure on them to split from you as well, right? But obviously you're in control yourself, so you can choose to split and force a certain angle or force a certain pressure, right? Especially because you have extra HP and extra damage, right? So it's almost paradoxical that you're actually providing more safety from your team by splitting from them, obviously at a safe distance, and forcing attention on yourself rather than just forcing attention on your entire team main, right? Because you force resources when you have a different angle from your team, because now the enemy team just can't take as much cover as they would if like everyone's stacked main. Um, So I just wanted to keep present that to yourself. And if you see this in I'll show you a few examples here, right? Just coming up very soon, or what I kind of mean in practice by this. But if you watch high ranked gameplay, right, especially on those characters I mentioned, right, they're just constantly trying to force angles, especially Sig and Hog. I think they're the really only two pure poke tanks in the game. Yeah, if they don't force angles, they're probably going to lose the game. I mean, it's just that simple. Um, they're just too squishy otherwise, right? And they just don't have enough sustain compared to the other tanks in the game. Anyways, I think the top 3 things I want you to work on, first and foremost, I think right now you need to be taking cover better, right? You take a lot of unnecessary damage. And this is just as simple as just using the map to your advantage to block most or all of your whatever player model when you don't need a peek, right? Especially Sigma, you can shoot, right? I'll just go into free cam for a second. This is important to explain. You can shoot, peek out, shoot, go behind cover, shoot again, right? You can shoot, throw up your shield, shoot again, withdraw your shield as you push up to the next piece of cover here, right? Something like that. You'll see good Sigmas do this all the time. Something to get in the habit of, right? But when you do this stuff, you just take so much less damage, right? And you'll force out way less cooldowns when you don't need to use them. And this leads me to my second point. I think you need to get better at using your cooldowns, and specifically your shield. You let your shield get destroyed way too often when you can just be using cover, right? And these 2 points kind of go hand in hand. Yeah, you want to be using your resources or your cooldowns to get offensive pressure on the enemy team, to get positive cooldown trades, or actual picks, or good damage on the enemy team, right? Good pressure of some sort, right? These kind of go hand in hand, like I said, right? So you can use your shield obviously to block damage, but it also is very useful to block stuns. For example, Ananade, or sorry, Anna Sleep, but it can also block Ananade too. Or they don't really have any other ones, but if you're playing against a Roadhog or a Junker Queen, right, they can hook you or knife you away from your team. But if you shield it, they just can't. Their knife or hook is blocked, right? So other things to keep in mind. And you just don't want to waste it just by throwing it in the middle of the enemy team and letting it destroyed. Bit of a spoiler warning. And I guess thirdly, you should. I apologize. I had something in my mind and it just completely slipped my mind. Oh yeah, so I apologize. Target priority. There are a lot of opportunities when someone that's not the tank is super overextended, really in the open. And if you just shoot them at all, they're just die. There are so many instances this game where this happens or this should happen, and you just miss out on so much pressure and so many kills that your team can even help you with, right? Even if you shoot a squishy once, they're at half HP, and that makes it really easy for your team to follow up on the damage, right? And you might say, I don't think your aim is too bad to do this at this point, right? And of course, if you want to continue ranking up, right, or rank up in general, eventually your aim's going to have to get better anyways. So might as well, practice at your own pace, but something to keep in mind, right? It'll happen eventually, naturally. So yeah, I kind of did maybe too long of an intro here. I think it's worth going over all that stuff though, because I don't plan on going too in-depth play-by-play because I don't want to overwhelm you, right? If you just focus on these things I said right now, I'm going to try to focus mostly on those things, right? Watching this replay and not say too much about anything. Right? So here, this is kind of what I mean, right? You have no reason to really shield right now, because if you literally just walk to this thing, you pretty much can't get shot, right? The junk can spam over the thing, but the Malga can't really shoot you, or you can just play over here, right? And this is what I mean by playing cover, right? By playing over here, you can just put a shield up and it can only get shot by the Malga, and you can force him away just by shooting him now. Or you can come over here and shoot the backline and just completely ignore the Malga, right? And force him away. You don't even really need your shield if you play over here too, right? And by doing this, right, I'm just going to take a little bit longer to show you why taking angles is important, right? By coming over here, right, you can't get shot by the Malga. And you can pressure the backline away from their Malga, right? So now the Malga is exposed against your entire team, right? He has no cover, and he has to worry about getting shot from this angle, and he also has to worry about getting shot by this angle here, and then possibly by you here. but you can just force the team away so they can't heal him as easily, right? So now he's taking damage from at minimum 2 sources, right? Not including your supports or you, and at maximum potentially 4. Your Mercy isn't going to pistol him, right? And realistically here, he can't really shoot all 4 people at one time, right? Or, you know, all 2 or however many people you want to say, right? And you and your Genji especially have like massive cover advantage, right? Again, he has nothing. And then your Bastion also has a Mercy pocket, right? So he doesn't have to play too close to cover right now because they can only got shot by the Malga, right? But your entire team can shoot the Malga, right? That's why I don't think it's really important for you to shoot him right now. But you can shoot his backline, right? So this is what I mean by like taking off angles. Like it doesn't even have to be like extreme flanks. Just doing something as simple as that, like opens a map up for your team, right? And I hope you can see that there, right? That's kind of an in-depth thing, just something to keep in the top of your back of your mind, I should say. And just I want you primarily focusing on these hooks first and foremost. So you're right. You really want your shield when you push right now-ish, right? So you can keep pressuring the Malga, but you just kind of let it all get destroyed, right? Unfortunately, you walk into that trap. You have a bad habit, I'll say, of walking into traps too, right? Your cover usage thing, right? You're continuously letting your shield get destroyed. Just literally, when Malga uses his shout, just literally walk and do this. Like literally, no one can shoot you right now. Wait for your Mercy to get the res on the. Oh, I guess she got the res on your Bastion. Your dude just died, right? So now they have the player advantage. So like, you're not gonna win this fight anyways, right? Just wait for a second. Yeah, good opportunity to withdraw your shield here. I think it's okay. You know, you have to wait for your Genji to come back. Trying to predict the Mercy. This is fine, right? Shoot the Mercy out of the room. I'll say this trap This guy charges in, right? I'll kind of make a point of this, like maybe this one last time of cover usage, right? I'm just gonna mention it going further on here, right? If the Malga charges in, it's almost counterintuitive. You don't want to back up. You want to move here, right? Because if the Malga wants to continue pushing you, see what he has to do from his perspective. He has to do this, right? If he wants to keep shooting you, which means you can shoot him, right? You have all this time to wait for you to get healed, right? Wait for your shield to get a little bit healthier, right? And it also forces him to walk in the LOS of your team for like 2 extra seconds, which makes him get blown up, right? But if you just walk back, right, he can literally just sit here and just like hold his mouse down and just shoot you as you back up, right? He's still taking damage, right? But like, you're not really doing anything in return, especially on Sigma, right? If you really wanted to, you'd shoot off the wall and bounce the Malga in the corner or whatever. But like again, here you're creating an angle, which makes it much harder for the Malga to push in because he can't just block everything and shoot everything at once, right? Yeah, there's a trap. Definitely could have died there. You know, pay a little more attention to the traps. So you're having a hard time pushing, right? Because you're constantly like letting your shield get destroyed, not letting it regenerate. Here, right? If you're not getting shot, don't use your grasp. I hate to say it's pretty straightforward, but it kind of is. I do like to try to go to the right side, you know, open an angle with your team. I see your Bastion got a pick, but you're waiting for the turret form. Yeah. You could have definitely thrown up a shield in this doorway, right, and kept pushing to get the kill on the Junkrat, right? If you hit him like once, he's just gonna die. And you're at full HP, right? You have all your shield, you have all your resources here, right? So, bit of a messed up execution there. Not the end of the world. I think it's an okay rock to miss. It happens sometimes. Here, right? I'm sure you can see at the beginning of the game, I said you're going to have a hard time when everyone's stacked, right? If you'll notice the positioning of your team relative to you, like they're all pretty much behind you, right? And you see how much you're struggling. What you should be doing here is waiting for them to use cooldowns. For example, like this guy Shout, the Bastion turret form. And then once they use cooldowns, right, then you can literally just walk over here and they can't stop you, right? And now you're safe here, right? If you really get weak, you can just back up here, right? Your Ana can heal you from pretty much like if she's fairly safe from all the way over here, for example, if she really needs to. If she doesn't really need to, though, you know, you have all your resources. You just walk over here and start pressuring out their backline, and then the rest of your team can walk, right? Because you're splitting attention from main, which allows your team to not need all the resources. Right? Good rock here. Don't know if it was intentional, but we'll take that, right? I'll say Junkrat threw a trap on the floor right there, you know. That's alright, though. You didn't walk into it that time. So, capping here is perfectly fine, right? If you really wanted to, you could go outside and start like spamming as they walk up, right? Maybe that'd be something to keep in mind in the future. But capping is like never a troll. This is like okay to use your grasp, but as you rank up, right? I'll mention it here because it seems like you got a lot of overhealth. As you rank up, this Bastion will just not shoot you when he sees you. Just grasp at full HP, and then you just open yourself up to get hard pushed. I mean, you'll be pretty safe here because it's kind of hard for them to push past this choke. But you really want to be looking for better opportunities. For example, you can like come out here, right, and open up the map for yourself a lot, right? Like, look how good this angle is for you right now. If you had all your cooldowns, you can just literally ignore their tank. Especially because Malga's really bad at like killing your backline, right? He really wants to focus enemy tank and just like spam their backline and force a Malga to like take a 4v1 against your team with like less resources than you have, right? So just something to keep in mind, right? Looking for these angles to open up the map for your team, and just like not wasting resources. Like, yeah, you get good value there because he just decides to shoot that. Sure, you can imagine if you had it here, you could actually just push out of this choke right now, use your grass to walk out, and continue like shooting down the Malga now, even if you just didn't waste your grasp and shield, right? Maybe he doesn't charge in, get that load to begin with, but now you just can spam down, right? Because you don't have your full points. I'll say again, notice how when you were just like sitting in this tiny little choke here, it was like impossible for your team. I mean, part of it's also this doorway opened up, right? Part of it, I mean, yeah, you just really struggle to walk through, right? Because all the Junkrat had to do was spam this doorway, right? And if your team isn't taking any angles, you just get like stuffed in this choke point forever. The moment you come out here, you see the Malga is like 200 HP and running back to his team, right? And you see your Genji comes out and helps you like do something, right? That's like how important making angles for your team is. Just another like quick show. Obviously you shouldn't die there, right? Here, just wait for your cooldowns to come back online, right? So quick mention, right? They just use their sleep and their pull, which are their biggest counters to your flux. I mean, if they're Lifeweaver is really good. He can put a pedal in the middle of your flux. He may have just used that recently. I wasn't really paying attention. It's kind of difficult when I'm pausing a lot, right? But that's like an opportunity for you to use your flux. I think you end up using it for like a second. Yeah. This is good here, right? When you hit their entire team. Kind of mess up your aim a bit there. And I will say, right, if your cover usage was a bit better, right, you could have, for example, flown up in the air, landed up here, right, still done the same thing, right, still shoot them, or you can land over here, for example, right, and like you see how much safer you are, right? Just imagine just there where their dead bodies are, right? You have a lot more cover, for example, over here, but the flux is good enough, you know, take a lot of attention, do a lot of entry damage for your team, force out an ult. So, I mean, obviously there's a lot of things you could have done better in addition to that, right? But it's good enough, right? Obviously, that flux probably wins you the fight there. So. You're right, kind of target priority thing. You see the Bastion's completely alone to your left, right? I'm gonna pause here just to show you like how much more awkward this is for the Ana to heal, right? If the Bastion has to stay right here to do damage and get healed, if he moves too far out this way, he can't get healed. If he comes back this way, he can't do damage, right? It's okay to shoot the Mago, for example, but like it's not necessarily bad. But he's getting tanked right now. But it's a lot easier for you and your Genji to kill a 300 HP Bastion than it is for you to kill like a 700 HP Mago, right? He could have just backed up there for reference, right? There's really no reason for him to die there. That's okay. Okay, nice body block there. Yep.
Sorry, the barrier's weakened.
Here, you should withdraw your shield. Yeah, have to go away. Okay. I think you lose the life lever. Again, you shouldn't be fighting this guy if you have a chance to, right? You have just a much higher chance of killing some of these. If your Ana hits a sleep, just for future reference, just let him sleep when he's nanoed, right? He's not gonna die 99% of the time. Not in that position, right? Your team just can't peek very well. Okay, good, right? This is fine here. This guy's trolling. You didn't block at that time, but that's okay, right? You just troll and kill your team. Honestly, this seems like a really like stupid thing to consider, right? But the reason this guy insta-died is because your Genji had an angle here, you had an angle here, your supports had an angle on bridge, and your Bastion was with him, right? So this guy literally cannot shoot everyone at the same time, right? And his team just also can't walk in for free too, right? Because if they walk in with him, now they have just to like take damage from 3 angles, and they can't like LOS everything, right? It seems really dumb, but that's like why he dies there, right? He walks in to like the angles your team is already set up. No need to flux here, right? You just killed their tank, you just tapped out the point. There were a few mechanical things that could have been better, right? Something in mind. It's okay. Again, no real reason to shield. You just take cover on the card and walk right, walk left. Like now is when you want to be peeking. Just kind of keep letting it die. Again, I'll pause here. Look at where their life lever and Junkrat's were, right? Their life levers, like, he was right here. Look how bad of a spot. I mean, your team isn't peeking yet, unfortunately. But even they peek now, right? This guy's in a really bad spot. He's nowhere near cover over here, and he has to waste his resources to, like, do this. This is the best way to go back to cover. If you're just shooting him, he has a much higher chance of dying than, like, the group of people that are really far behind cover from their team, right? I think you're just kind of shooting the group of people. Not necessarily aiming for anyone in particular. Like, there are much better targets to your left, right? Like, imagine if you shot the life weaver at all there, he would have died. He was like 70 HP. And like far away from cover. Someone else was on your team shooting. Can't see deflectors and stuff into it. Okay, it's fine. Then we're rolling, right? This is kind of when you want all your resources, right? I like that you go in with your Genji here. And when I say resources, I mean your cooldowns, right? Your Genji commits. Again, right, the Junkrat is in your face. No reason to shoot the D.Va here. Junkrat's way more killable. This is fine. Obviously, D.Va's pretty much the last person at this point. So light lever. It's going to be hard for you to deal with on top of the metal, so. Yep, okay, so. Nice cap.
2, 1. Attackers incoming.
Here, if your team wants to play up here, I'd play with them. As you go higher in rank, especially on Sig, usually, you'll start off like maybe around here and spam them as they walk in through like this choke point here, where you're about to back up to, right? And as they back in, you can play around, for example, here, these really long spam lines, right? Depending on where they're rotating to, and kite back to point to force them into these really long, whatever sight lines where you can spam them out as they walk in, right? Yeah, just something to keep in mind. You don't want to be playing this far forward, in general. But if your team's here, you know you gotta play with them. Right? Right, letting your shield get blown away for no reason there, kind of. You pretty much could have, like there, you want to be using your shield. I'm gonna pause here for a second. You want to be using your shield to peek. Right? So you put up your shield here, right? This is just kind of how like silly this might look, and this is like a good example of this. So you put up your shield to block an angle where they literally cannot shoot anyone, right? They're all in spawn. They literally can't see anything except your shield, so it's getting no value, right? Maybe putting in perspective, I mean, I guess the D.Va can, but she's not doing any damage from this range anyways, right? Except your shield. It just goes to maybe that puts in perspective like what shield usage you don't want to be looking for. What you want to be doing, right? I'll hopefully have a better example soon. But you wouldn't be putting at this angle or at a corner as you peek the angle, right? So you block cooldowns and you can actually spam on like their pack. This is like no one was peeking that angle, so pretty much got this. You know cooldowns, back away here. You're doing a decent job of keeping your distance, which is good. Again, better targets, right? Moira's kind of dancing around and over. It's fine. You can get Steam back. Here, right? They have no tank. Pretty much no tank, right? And they're down a DPS. You can afford to be much more aggressive, right? You have your grasp, right? No reason to kind of be throwing a rocket like that. Unfortunate, the D.Va gets her mech back. She spawns her team enough. Right, a lot better targets to your left. The D.Va, right? Definitely a lot of tank shooting this round. Like, you can see the backline is not using cover at all. Like, the Moira literally just ran into your entire team. Okay, this is good here, right? Like, you see the moment you shoot their backline, 2 people die. Like, it's really that easy, right? These people are just clumped, not really using cover, and not playing around like your projectile timing, and they just instantly die. It's okay to shoot the tank here, right? She's overextended, so this is fine. Trap on the floor, be careful, right? Walk in the traps a bit. I actually only watched the first offense here. Okay. I don't hate the ult. I think it's okay. I will say their tank was dead, just respawning. I'm not a big fan of it because it's right in front of their spawn, and like even if you wipe their entire team, right, ignoring cooldowns, like they just have like a 15-second walk back to exactly where you just killed them. That's okay, right? Not that. It's unfortunate you're and nano too. I think that was completely unnecessary. I don't hate your ult. Unfortunately now you kind of took a fight too close to their spawn, so I'm not saying too much there, right? Obviously, I think the cooldowns are fine there. You just let your shield get too whittled away before that fight, and you're playing too close to your spawn. Just got overwhelmed, right? I mean, it's kind of like that. That's okay, though, right? I don't think anything was necessarily bad. You're just not positioned correctly to begin with.
My damage spell is upon you.
The universe. No. Groovy. Barrier initialized.
It's fine here, right? No one's shooting the shield, right? No one's shooting you, I should say. Just withdraw it.
Barrier is nearly spent.
You can pretty much dodge all this guy's stuff on reaction. Nice, right, it's good. I think your spacing's pretty good, actually. I'm a little surprised. Usually I see a lot of Sigmas at lower ranks have a really hard time, like, keeping a good distance. So far, that really hasn't seemed like a good, or seemed like a problem for you. Here, right, their tank's dead. You should be a little bit more aggressive. It's really hard for them to kill you without, like, multiple players. I feel like this is pretty good, since you didn't bait out the lamp. I'm sure this guy's mad. I want to say, like, that was like a much better spot for you to ult, right? Let me bring this up specifically, not necessarily for cooldown wise, but even when you force out cooldowns and do a ton of damage, Sig ult's still pretty good, right? So like it's not the end of the world that they still lamp to save you from the or save themselves from the cooldowns. But the difference between you ulting in their spawn, right, and you ulting here is one. Their spawn's all the way back here, right? I'm not gonna go all the way back. It's like a 30-second rotation for some of them, 20-30 seconds. Right, so you're buying a lot more time off the clock. And two, when you ult here, right, you lift them up in LOS of literally your entire team, right? You can see where they're positioned, right? This isn't great. Ideally, some people should be high ground, right? But the important thing is, like, they just get lifted in the air. And I'll let it keep playing out and show you, like, how vulnerable they should be. Your team just kind of messes up. I mean, look how vulnerable these people are. no cover. Unfortunately, no one dies. A little unfortunate. Here, right, withdraw your shield. A little late. That's what you want to be looking for. Ult usage, right? They're all peeking your team, right? No cover, so it's like it should be in principle really easy. If your ults just continue to look like that, they'll be fine. Again, could be using cover, right? Can't eat the whatever Moira thing. So I say Moira has no fade, right? That makes her vulnerable. It's fine. Could have been a bit more aggressive there because they were down both their DPS. Not that in the world. Even if you're missing this Moira, I'll pause this to say, even if you're missing this Moira, you're still forcing her to shoot you, and she has literally a 0% chance of killing you ever. When you both your supports are alive, all she's doing is wasting her time and making it like easier for your team to kill her and giving more opportunities for your team to kill her, right? So like, don't worry too much about missing a lot, because you're still getting value, right? Good, shoot the Moira here, right? You can honestly walk into her, force her fade, and then follow her after that. It's okay, right? Right, even though they have land for it, it's not the end of the world. You still see force out like all their cooldowns, and still get them to half health, right? At a minimum, makes it very easy to kill. Here, right, just keep pushing. You just killed 3 people. Just keep going forward. This guy's a card. You guys want to go after him. There, you could have shielded a little bit further forward to save your Sojourn, right? She ended up living anyways, but something to keep in mind, right? Not the end of the world. Here, right, you can be playing a bit further forward, you know, go in the castle. I don't think this is the end of the world, right? You probably don't want to back half or anything. Unfortunate. Your Mercy should be able to res it, so. You know, be a little more cognizant, withdraw your shield when it's not getting value. Nice rock, good rotation. Yep, it's good. Again, if you just withdrew your shield, you'd be able to like hard pressure their backline here and just like kill the whatever, at least the BAP. Probably get the pick anyways. Maybe? No. Okay, nice. Okay, I guess you're typing here. Yeah, you just had to go back to card there. Unfortunate. You had to stay high ground and go back to card. Not the end of the world. Obviously, you could have been a bit more aware of the tire too. Kind of like messed up the team going down the pick. Primary issue there was the shield usage, right? You just didn't have shield to keep pressure on the backline. Kind of let it get destroyed. Again, right? Withdraw your shield. If you're not using it, just get in the habit of just like withdrawing it every time. I would have kept chasing these people. You saw they were purple, right? They were both half. You're just kind of out of position. This is risky. I don't necessarily hate it. Just keep in mind they did have a window and you could have just insta died. The timing wasn't perfect. That's okay though. Not that difficult. Again, right, they're down 2 players. You should be getting aggressive here. Right, just walking into them. Just pretty much can't die right now. So Mercy has the right idea. Her movement kind of sucks, but she shouldn't be the one doing anything. You had a lot of opportunities to go forward there. It's okay though. Here, yeah, you want to off angle from your team, but you don't want to let the tank get behind you, right? Just then, they're kind of doing to you what you want to do to them right now. You have 2 things to worry about instead of just 1, right? Obviously, mechanics could have been a bit better there, right? You probably could have at least traded with one of them. That's okay, right? It's gonna just take time to mechanics. Doesn't look like your sense is like way too high or anything, so just a bit more practice. Oh. Unfortunate. Can't really do anything about that in that position. Your shield was a bit better. Maybe could have shield danced. Unlikely, but again, not the end of the world.
30 seconds remaining.
Through hardship.
Do you guys will hold this? That's actually crazy. Maybe? But these positions, you know, if you just want a one-trick sig, you know, it's perfectly understandable. You could be coming back Diva or Ball. Diva isn't as fast as Ball, but she's a lot more survivable, you know, in these positions because of all of her matrix. And Ball is just like the fastest hero to get back to card. Maybe not because he has the grapple thing, but those are just like the two. Like he can't use grapple for the first 5 seconds, but he's still pretty fast regardless. And he's really good at stalling. But Diva has the boosters immediately, right? And she can stall with Matrix immediately. You're right. You actually didn't have any reason to peek her. Just literally, I'm gonna pause this one time. Literally, just stand right here and like make yourself as hard to hit as possible. Right? You can see, like from her POV. Let me go back here. She's like right here-ish, right? I'm just gonna rotate over this way, right? She actually can't see you if she doesn't slide up, right? It's not perfect. I'm not gonna keep, and you weren't like hiding behind cart, but just to show you how important cover usage is, right? She just wouldn't be able to shoot you at all, so no reason to even peek or let her waste her resources. That's okay though, right?
Better.
Okay, so hopefully this doesn't go all over your head. Right, I kind of wasted, well, I wouldn't say wasted, but I kind of gave you a bit of an info dump at the beginning of the game, right? I will say I think your spacing is surprisingly good. Like I said, I think a lot of bronze sigmas really struggle with that. And what I mean by that is like you're not letting people get too close to you too often unless they're obviously feeding, which is good, right? And I think your aim is definitely like not a huge problem right now. I think it's probably pretty good for bronze. I haven't seen like a ton of bronze sigmas, for example. It doesn't look like it's going to hold you back anytime soon. Again, top 3 things I really want you to focus on. Using cover, right? Just so you minimize the amount of damage you take. I kind of went in depth at this in the beginning of the game and showed you a few examples where you could do this, right? You know, cooldown usage, right? Again, I showed you a few examples. This kind of goes hand in hand with the first point, right? You don't want to just waste them. Let them like get no value for like no reason, right? You actively want to be using them to take space or like peak aggressive angles, or save yourself. Of course, sometimes you'll have to do that. And thirdly, you really need to stop shooting the tank so much, right? I'm sure I could show you, I'm sure I showed you like multiple instances where like you just didn't get a whole lot of value by shooting the tank, but the moment you like started shooting the backline, right, you just immediately start getting value, right? So, okay, I hope this helps.